We have a CAT 2019 Parajumble question. In CAT 2019, we had 4 sentences. In CAT 2018, also we had 4 sentences in the Parajumbles. But in CAT 2017, we had 5 sentences in the Parajumble. That made the VA part of CAT 2017 very difficult. But the RC part of CAT 2017 was very easy. Whereas the VA part of CAT 2019 was very easy and the RC was really difficult. So look at this question and let's try to find the sequence in which the sentences will make logical sense. Now, if you look at all the sentences here, Ford says print reading like mind reading varies across cultures, depends heavily on certain parts of the brain and is subject to the development disorders, right? So print reading like mind reading varies across cultures, depends heavily on certain parts of the brain. So print reading, like mind reading, it's subject to developmental disorders. Can we say that dyslexia is a developmental disorder? While autism is also a developmental disorder. People with dyslexia have difficulty with print reading and people with autism spectrum have difficulty with mind reading. So developmental disorder, right, is autism and dyslexia because you are growing up but you have difficulty in doing something. So one thing is quite clear, that 4 and 1 will form a pair, and in that sequence you will have 4 first because 4 gives an assertion and 1 comes as the example of that assertion. So print reading like mind reading varies across cultures, depends heavily on certain part of the brain and is subject to developmental disorders. And what are those disorders? People with dyslexia have difficulty with print reading. So dyslexia disorder creates difficulty in print reading, and autism, which is a disorder, creates difficulty in mind reading. So 4 and 1 is very clear to us. Now, mind reading looks increasingly like literacy, a skill we know for sure is not in our genes since scripts have been around. So when you go with 3, you get a feeling that after 1, can we put 3? And look at 2, an example of a lost cognitive instinct is mind reading. So you are basically saying that an example of lost cognitive instinct is mind reading. If you have discussed mind reading already, if you have discussed mind reading so elaborately, does it make sense to put 2 at the end? After 1? No. So 2 definitely is opening the idea. It gives an example that an example of mind of a lost cognitive instinct is mind reading. Our capacity, and look at these 2 columns. The columns are explaining what mind reading is all about. So it says that mind reading, and what is mind reading? Our capacity to think of ourselves and others as having beliefs, desires and thoughts and care and feelings. So an example of a lost cognitive instinct is mind reading. The author defines what is mind reading and therefore 2 will come the 4 and 1. And because mind reading is elaborated, mind reading looks increasingly like literacy, a skill we know for sure not in our. So in general, the author introduces what is mind reading and then says what mind reading is all about. So 2, 3 will come as a pair. And then you go to print reading like mind reading people. So you have some kind of contrasting developmental disorder that causes these 2 things. So you have choice of either 4, 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4, 1. Now the point is putting 2 after 1 does not make sense, and therefore the right sequence has to be 2, 3, 4, 1, wherein you introduce mind reading and then you say mind reading looks increasingly difficult, mind reading looks increasingly like literacy, a skill we know for sure is not in our genes. And then you go to 4 and then you go to 1. 2, 3, 4, 1 is the right sequence. I would say it's an easy question, not a difficult one.